Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sammā sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sanghang namasami. Dear friends, I thought that tonight we might continue the conversation about sammā that was started this past weekend during the sutta study about the samadhi bojjhanga, the awakening factor of samadhi. We'll be starting with meditation. And I thought perhaps the theme or the suggestion that I would make for meditation is to focus on the factor of non-distraction or unification of the mind. Ekaggata. One can think of it as placing the mind on the object of meditation. But I don't think of it as pointing a narrow, concentrated pinpoint of awareness on the object, rather something wider, broader than that. One could alternately think of this unification being a receptive attitude where the object of meditation is allowed to flood in and completely fill up the field of awareness. So there's not room for distractions. So one metaphor to bring up at the beginning is this idea of opening and receiving, and letting the object of meditation fill up the mind, or fill up the whole field of awareness. And then another metaphor that could be useful is balancing samadhi with virya, balancing the serene unification of the mind, which is a very calm state, with the application of energy. A metaphor that I heard about this is if you're replacing a tire on the car, when you're tightening up the nuts, you don't tighten up all on the first screw you come to all the way. you go sort of like go around or go opposite, go around and tighten them little by little in a balanced way so the wheel remains balanced. So my idea then is that we take a few minutes at the beginning to allow the distractions to fall away, to release or let go of distracting thoughts. And then if during the meditation, the awareness wobbles or some distracting thought comes in, suppose we just can bring just enough energy to the situation to be mindful and know what's happening, and then to release that distraction and come back to the object of awareness. So bringing in energy, but in a very gentle and careful way so that it doesn't hurt the balance of the mind. These are my ideas tonight about method of meditation to see how much unification of the mind or how much samadhi we could develop in a very short meditation period together. So I invite everybody to come to an upright and balanced posture. Arranging the body so that one can keep still without needing to shift around. With enough energy so that the torso of the body, the trunk of the body, is upright and the breath is able to flow very smoothly all the way down to the diaphragm, through the chest and up to the head, feeling the energy of the breath flowing very easily. Aware of how the head is balanced on the spine, how the hands are placed, how the feet and legs are placed. And if there's any tension or tightness in the body, notice that and think of relaxing those places which are tight or those places which are restless. resolving to let go of thinking about the problems from earlier today or the worries about later on, to just remain in the receptive mode, aware of the here and now, what is arising to our experience right now. Secluded from sense desires, secluded from all the negative mind states, just interested, watching what comes to the senses right now. Perfectly contented with whatever arises. And if the breath is noticeable, can allow the breath to come up to the front. feeling awareness with that peaceful object, the in-breath and the out-breath. we could recall what we spoke about this weekend regarding nourishing of the bojjhangas. It said that samadhi factor is nourished by those things that are the foundation of serenity and freedom from distraction. Serenity is samatha, and freedom from distraction is abhyaga, which is virtually the same thing as ekaggata. I'm putting these Pali words in the chat. In the sutta, it's referring to samatha, and abhyaga is the nimitta. Nimitta are the sign. Those who have had some training or read books, instructions about jhana meditation, you may have heard about the nimitta of concentration as being an experience of some kind of a light that arises. But in the early Buddhist texts in the Suttas, you don't see nimitta used in this way. In this context, the nimitta is some aspect of your experience that, when you attend to it, promotes the growth of a similar or a related quality. So if you want more energy, and then you pay attention to things that arouse energy, that cause the mind to be energetic. If you want to cause the mind to be peaceful, you would pay attention to peaceful and calming things, like the breath meditation. Or you could say that all of the subjects in the Satipatthana are basically calming meditations that help the mind to calm down when you pay attention to it. So in that way, it's the objects or the factors that cause the mind to grow towards becoming fulfilled in that particular aspect. It's quite useful to, since the sutta gives it in this very simple way, and there's a few other places where there's this very simple, like 2 elements of samadhi. And then those 2 elements are the basis for the jhanas, which is a more elaborated a formula that we've studied, and that has additional factors to it, which are the jhana factors that develop as you go through them progressively. But as a sort of like a preliminary conditioning of the mind to be prepared to enter jhana, just giving attention to these 2 factors, this serenity or stillness, and this unification. So that stillness of mind, that's stability, that's not wavering, not moving. It's an expansive state of mind but it would not be a state of mind which is jumping or restless or flickering about. An analogy is if you think of the Brahma God, his perspective is so vast that he can survey thousands of world systems as easily as a person can view a handful of sesame seeds. So if you would visualize the framework or the perspective of watching the experience to be like this big sky kind of a perspective, hovering or looking over everything that arises, and the things that could arise. It could be those little flickers, like the different sensations that come along, could seem to be as small as the details of a handful of sesame seeds. And so then there's a way in which this stability of the big mind, that's the stillness. And the stillness is able to, in a way, encompass whatever diversity is there, and so the diversity becomes sort of like included in this stillness. Then that factor, that ekaggata factor, that one-pointedness, again, we nowadays think that it's not causing the mind to be narrow in that way, but rather a unification. Not divided among numerous different objects. Certainly not trying to be multitasking, to be aware of more than one object at a time. There's a way in which, when I reflect about the 5 aggregates, in doing meditation, could be like breath meditation or meditating on the Brahma Viharas. If I'm aware of, like, bringing the body, the state of the body in this meditation, how the body is held in the meditation, and then aware of the feeling state that's arising, related to the meditation, the intentional, especially the intention, the volitional formation in terms of the intentions, like I'm intending to land on the object and stay there, or if I'm doing the Brahma Viharas, I have the intention of loving kindness, and then I've got the the perception of the in-breath or the out-breath, or of the thought of loving kindness, and then the knowing faculty. And so, like, one by one, I take these different aspects of mentality, and I bring them in, and one by one I get them connected to the object of meditation, and in that way the meditation becomes unified, in the sense that I'm bringing like the whole person is present for this meditation. So I'm not merely giving lip service to some kind of like a mantra saying, may all beings be well, and only my lips are moving, but my mind is somewhere else. Instead of, I've tried to bring the whole person together onto that meditation. And then having gone through that exercise of corralling the different aspects of the mind, then stop with that activity and just allow the stillness to come in and take over. There is a different kind of way that samadhi works if a person is doing vipassana meditation, like, for example, following the Mahasi method. And in that case, he speaks of the momentary access concentration, which is something, it's a type of samadhi, but the mind is completely taken up, completely connected in each object as it presents itself for that moment. So the mind has got that open, receptive state which is fully present. You're fully present, and then you let go. And then the mind becomes able to receive the next object. And so in that style of meditation, one is able to experience different objects coming along in different moments of meditation, but with each one there is still that quality of unification, and as well there's the quality of serenity or stillness, in the sense of that being receptive to those objects. So in that case, in each moment, there's that same kind of a deep unification of the mind, which is in the neighborhood of jhana. It is a type of samadhi. And that kind of samadhi, you would not be falling into becoming fascinated or delighted with the sense objects in such a way that you would be clinging to them. So that type of practice is not taking you into the desire realm, and it's not taking you into any kind of ill will or aversion towards objects. Instead, the mind has got the quality of being disengaged in not reacting with either desire or ill will. So that's what the sense restraint is. I want to mention another sutta, a couple of other suttas. This is, there's a sort of a question about how sammā samadhi relates to stream entry. And this is a sutta, I know Richard is in the room, this is one that he might remember. It's Sariputta's statement about the factors of stream entry. he said, the factors of stream entry are associating with true persons, listening to the true teaching, wise attention, that's the yoniso manasikara, and practicing in line with the teaching. Those are the 4 factors of stream entry, or you could say the 4 preconditions for stream entry. There's another description of stream entry that has to do with the abandoning of the 3 fetters of the fetter of clinging to rites and rituals, the fetter of skeptical doubt, and the fetter of identification of self in the body or in any of the 5 aggregates. That would be more like you could say the fruit or the sign, like how you would know, yes, you have you've attained the fruition of stream entry, or you've attained the stream entry path, is if you quiz yourself about whether those fetters are still present or whether they're absent, or whether some of them are absent. But this is more like the factors that would be leading up. If you don't have stream entry but you'd like to have it, well, you could try to see if you could accomplish putting these 4 factors into your life, to associate with true persons, to listen to the saddhamma, to the true teaching, to practice this yoniso manasikara, this wise attention, or this deep application of the mind. And then this last one is actually doing a lot of work. It's called, in English it says, practicing in line with the teaching. That's I'm pasting it here in the chat. Dhamma nudhamma patipatiya. Dhamma nudhamma patipati. Patipati is practicing, and then the Dhamma is the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, and then Anudhamma is in accord with the Dhamma. So it translates literally as practicing the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. And what this signifies is practicing the fullness of the Eightfold Noble Path without leaving any of the elements out of it. So Dhamma nudhamma patipati has to be based on right view. It has to include the elements of sila and right intention, right sila, and the aspects of meditation. The bhavana elements, which is the right effort to purify the mind of unwholesome states, the right mindfulness, and right samadhi. So the fullness of that. This also there's a very beautiful line in the Mahāpariṇibbāna Sutta, which it's about how to respect the triple gem. Do you want to worship the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha? So the verse is Dhamma nudhamma patipatiya buddhaṃ pujami. Practicing the Dhamma in accord with Dhamma, I worship the Buddha. Dhamma nudhamma patipatiya dhammang pujami. practicing the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. I worship the Dhamma. Dhammanu Dhamma Patipattiya Saṅgaṇ Pujami. Practicing the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. I worship the Sangha. So, putting flowers on the altar, bowing, or offering to Buddha Puja, are tokens of respect and veneration. Putting your hands in Anjali when you hear Āhārasutta, or circumambulating the stupa or the temple with your right shoulder facing towards the Buddha Rupa. These are like external symbols of respect. But the Buddha said, if you really want to respect the Triple Gem, then you should practice the Dhamma in accord with the Dhamma. You should practice fully the whole Eightfold Noble Path. And so then listening, encountering true persons, listening to the Dhamma, practicing this yoniso manasikara. This is where you got to make it your own. You got to bring your own investigation. You have to give this wise, this deep attention to what you have heard, what you have seen, and what you can experience. And then you got to practice the entire balance of the path. So then, apparently there's some kind of a debate going on about whether samadhi is like the proximate cause for stream entry. And you find very few suttas that mention samadhi all by itself as the cause. There's one. I'm going to put the citation so that those who want to can look it up later. This is in the Anguttara. It's 6.68. It says, having fulfilled right view, it's possible to fulfill right samadhi. Having fulfilled right samadhi, it's possible to give up the fetters. The fetters are the factors that are the definition of the stages of awakening, are in terms of the progressive abandoning of those 10 fetters. And then having given up the fetters, it's possible to realize nibbāna. So I studied up about this this afternoon, and the key word here is this fulfillment, this paripuretva, so the complete fulfillment of samadhi is associated with awakening, but the complete fulfillment of samadhi is impossible without also including the entire Eightfold Noble Path. So in this case, I think I would say this paripuretva, this complete fulfillment, is implying that one has God based in right view, and in the entire practice of the Eightfold Path culminating in samadhi. And then there's another sutta that's also sort of relevant to this, like trying to draw this particular connection between samadhi and enlightenment. And in this case, this is the Mahāmālukyasutta 64 in the middle length discourses. They're talking about how to give up the 5 lower fetters. That would be the 3 that I just mentioned, becoming free from skeptical doubt, free from the belief in rites and rituals, free from skeptical doubt, and free from the belief in finding the self in the body or in any of the 5 aggregates. And then the second 2 are the aversion and sensual craving. So in that case, the practice for giving up the 5 lower fetters, I'll just read it off to you. It's when a bhikkhu, due to seclusion from attachment, giving up the unskillful qualities, the complete settling of physical discomfort, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unskillful qualities, enters and remains in the first jhana, which has rapture and bliss born of seclusion, while placing the mind and keeping it connected. It's a vitaka vichara. So that's having developed the first jhana. Then they contemplate the phenomena there, included in form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. That's the aggregates, as impermanent, as suffering, as diseased, as a boil, as a dart, as a misery, as an affliction, as alien, as falling apart, as empty, as not self. In other words, they are able to clearly perceive each of the elements and all the elements together of the 5 aggregates within that jhana experience, and see the danger in the sense that they're impermanent and conditioned, therefore they are not the salvation, or not the way to the end of suffering, precisely because of being conditioned and impermanent. And then even no matter how blissful or serene those states are, because of that danger aspect, then they see them as they turn away. They develop the disillusionment towards them, see them as an affliction, as something falling apart, as something empty, something not self. They turn the mind away from those things and apply it to the deathless element. With this thought, this is peaceful, this is sublime, that is the stilling of all activities, letting go of all attachments, the ending of craving, fading away, cessation, extinguishment. Abiding in that, they attain the end of the defilements. That would be a definition of enlightenment. But if they don't attain the ending of defilements, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, they're reborn spontaneously because of their passion and love for that meditation. And then they would go to the non-returner realm. And then this sutta goes on, and it develops a parallel pattern with each one of the four jhanas. So this sutta, it's really a very central teaching, and it's a very nice rendition. You see this teaching in several places, but the idea is that whatever meditation is practiced, if we have the insight about their impermanent and conditioned aspect, then we have the possibility to see clearly the danger there, to release the attachments within that state of meditation, to release all attachments within that state, and to turn the mind towards the deathless element. So in that sense, you could say that you wouldn't necessarily say that sammā samadhi is, or that meditation is the cause for stream entry, but if one has the intention to follow this Dhamma according to the teachings of the Buddha as the way to the end of dukkha. In other words, if our goal is the end of suffering, then the opportunity for that decisive insight is available to us there within the practice of samadhi. And so this could be a great, not to neglect samadhi, not to simply be a good person and be mindful in all the postures and mindful in everyday life, and develop loving kindness as a general attitude, or develop a sila, develop a purity intentions as a kind of a daily life practice. But we should also, it's like we're striving for wisdom, we're listening to the Dhamma, we're putting ourselves in the presence of those true persons, either the best Dhamma teachers that we can find, or else through the miracle of books, listening to the words of the Buddha as handed down, and of the great practitioners, whether of the modern era or of the past eras. Be in the presence of those teachings, listen to those teachings, develop the wisdom in that way, but don't neglect samadhi. That samadhi seems like, according to these teachings, is a good gateway for awakening. So now I'm going to stop speaking now. I've gone a little bit over the time, and I would like to welcome Richard to comment on this.
Thank you, Raya. That's Sutta 64 in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's very fascinating that the Buddha only goes up to, what is it here? Well, they call it nothingness, but it means to be unstuck from the lower six elements, from the six elements. There's a sutta where someone approaches Ananda and asks him a similar type of question, and he goes through the same thing, and he says he heard this from the Blessed One's own lips, if I remember correctly. He says that and he also only goes up to nothingness. And you may have heard me say on several occasions that when you're reading a sutta and the Buddha or Sariputta or whoever is discussing something, and then suddenly the person asks a question, they will many times just stop there and answer that question and stop the flow of the sutta, which has given some people the idea that originally these things weren't part of the teaching and they were added later, because you can find these shorter lists. And here's a perfect example of that. Ananda is going along, the Buddha is telling him how when you get to any one of these states, by the right insight, you can achieve nibbāna. And that's described in several suttas, as a matter of fact, that any one of these jhanas and formless states, if you get the right insight, you can actually kind of skip, going through the rest and attain nibbāna quickly. But here you see, right after he describes this, nothingness, if you want to use that term, Ananda stops him and says, "Venerable Sir, if this is the path, the way to the abandoning of the 5 lower fetters, then how is it that some bhikkhus here gain deliverance of mind?" I'm reading Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. "And some gain deliverance by wisdom." And the Buddha says, "The difference here, Ananda, is in their faculties, I say," and then that's the end. So because Ananda, his mind kind of went off in a different direction, the Buddha knew that he had kind of lost, the path, or there was some question in his mind. And so, you don't have to add all the rest. You've kind of made a certain amount of the point. And then it's fascinating that later on, Ananda someone asks him a similar, and he goes through the same thing, and he stops in the same place, saying that he heard this from the Blessed One, So, and I just happened to be reading that sutta and studying it today, that other sutta. And I had some notes in there from before because I've read it through it several times, and I was kind of wondering why Ananda stops there. And this confirms why, because here's the example where the Buddha teaches him that, and he stops there. So anyways, I thought that was rather interesting. Another thing is that you put that samatha nimittam and abhaya nimittam. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Okay, that abhaya nimittam. If you look up that word, that ABY should be AVY. You cannot find that ABYAGGA as a Pali word. But
use the V. It's in the dictionary AVY, not D.
Right. That's what I'm saying. You have to change the B to a V, and then you find the word, and that word means to be unconfused. So you're doing your samatha with a very clear mind, an unconfused mind is kind of what they're saying. That the sign, the good sign is that you're unconfused. You're focusing, that's a good sign. And another good sign is that you're unconfused. You really kind of know what you're doing at that point. Now that other thing, that Dhammanu Dhamma Pati Pati. Now that Pati Pati is often translated as practice, but if you look at the Pali, it actually that first Pati, right? I think it's the first one. Might be the second one. I'm sorry. It really should be Pad T, P-A-D, and what they're talking about there is that you go on in an unbroken way. You don't stop. Four things of stream entry is you don't kind of stop and pause and give up or something like that. You keep going on. Pati pati, right? You just keep going on. And that the first pati is like progress. So you have unbroken progress is kind of what it means. Like pad, the feet, right? You're walking, you don't stop. You have unbroken progress. I did have another thing on one of these other suttas, but which you might have found interesting, but I can't remember because there were just too many points, and I became very enthusiastic to see this other sutta where now I understand why Ananda stopped at that point. It's very clear right here. Okay, anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'll just affirm what you're saying, that the very often the suttas refer briefly, either just simply a phrase or else a portion of a larger list, and it's referring to something that's more fully developed somewhere else. So after one has listened again and again and read the suttas over and over again, then you can fill in and get the understand the whole idea. So it's like the same way when I read these four factors, and one of the four factors is Dhamma Dana Patipati. Well, it's okay. So that's like the whole ball of wax is just included in that one word, and likewise you can see sometimes that like a part of a sequence appears in a sutta, but it doesn't mean that you would exclude the whole of that particular sequence or that particular list. I'll go on to Damon.
Hi, thanks. I put my question in the chat. I wanted you to I feel like you're saying something similar to what this quote that I have heard that Ajahn Chah has said.
Ajahn Chah said that Sila, Samadhi, Panya are not three separate activities. They're part of the same fruit. Yes. Yes, it all goes together. You can't have one without the other.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to say is it's much, if you want to get the right result, if you just practice Sila Panya without the Samadhi, you don't have much less chance of being successful. What I wanted to be the takeaway for today is, not to neglect Samadhi, and to realize how precious it is as a practice. And then the other thing that I wanted as my takeaway is this samatha abhyaga. They said non-confusion. Bhyaga also has a meaning of distraction. So being distracted or being confused, I think in our modern world we really have a big problem of being distracted. So having the mind be not distracted, to be serene and not distracted. That just if you could just remember those two things as being the key to developing right samadhi.
Thank you.
Well, I feel very happy to see you all tonight, because I don't always know what I want to say, but tonight I wanted to tell you something that is like, it's important, and I think that I was able to show you at least what I intended as this is an important part of the Dhamma, and it's something that's concise enough that you will be able to remember it. And so I thank everybody for listening, for your good practice and your good questions. And we can give respect to the Triple Gem. You could learn this brief chant about respecting the Triple Gem through this Dhamma Dana Patipatiya. So please Repeat this phrase after me. Dhammanu dhamma patipatiya buddhaṃ pujami. Dhammanu dhamma patipatiya Dhammaṃ pujami. Dhammanu dhamma patipatiya Sanghaṃ pujami. By this practice of the Dhamma, in accord with the Dhamma, I venerate the Buddha, I venerate the Dhamma, I venerate the Sangha. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhaṃ Bhagavantaṃ Abhivademi. Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammaṃ namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghaṃ namami. Okay, thank you.